All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. My name is Yanis. I'm the head of acceleration here at CV Labs. And today, with my amazing colleague Bastian, who is leading our accelerator from the venture side, we will give you some insights into our acceleration program. And we're also joined by three of our amazing portfolio firms and our latest partner for accelerator, Hacken. So to kick things off, I'll give you a quick run through on the agenda and also on what we are and what we do here at CV Labs. Right, so agenda-wise, we have a quite light program. So we will have a quick introduction by myself about our accelerator. We will have a quick introduction about Hacken by Yev, and then we will have an introduction from our portfolio companies to hear a bit in a 1-minute pitch format what they're doing, what they're working on, and then the majority of the time will be spent in the form of a Q&A session where you can direct your questions throughout the chat box to us, or we also prepared some questions for the project, which might enlighten you a bit about some of the insights in our accelerator. So as you know, the main objective of this session here is, first of all, of course, to introduce our latest partnership with Hacken, but also we want to, as you know, for those projects that are still contemplating whether to apply or not for our accelerator, or are in general interested in our accelerator, to give you some more insights, what it exactly is all about, what you can expect, and how it will look like. So first things first, who is CVVC and who is CV Labs? So we are a Swiss-based company who exists since 2016, 2017. We started off as a venture capital firm, and now since 2018, we developed our ecosystem brand, which is called CV Labs. So see it as one company with two different brands. From the CVVC side, we do early stage investments. So we focus on two types of deals. We focus on the acceleration stage, which is what we're looking actively right now. There we are very geographically, we're agnostic, we're industry agnostic, but also ecosystem agnostic. This means whether you work in the Ethereum ecosystem on a project, or in the Cardano or Solana ecosystem, we're open to everybody. The second type of investments we do is our direct investments, which can be in the form of follow-on investments of our previous portfolio firms, but also we take part of deals up to pre-A rounds. So the second brand I was telling you about, CV Labs, is again our ecosystem brand, where we focus on three things. We focus on co-working. For instance, in our HQ in Zug, we have over 150 tenants. We focus on events. We have every year a flagship event called the CV Summit taking place in Zug. And we focus also on the accelerator, which is, I would say, somewhat in between, and then research reports. For those of you who are interested, for instance, in the Portuguese market, which is launched today, our Top Portugal report, we can learn about the landscape there. So now let's get a bit more in depth about our accelerator. So our accelerator is run out of our HQ here in Zug, Switzerland, but we operate globally. So this is the beauty of our labs, that we have a truly global approach. For instance, we have offices in Lisbon, in Berlin, Vaduz, and Cape Town, where we source projects, but we also operate ecosystems. So all the labs activities I mentioned, you will find them also there. And by being part of our accelerator, we also enjoy this proximity to local ecosystems. Having a bit more, let's say, an in-depth look at accelerator. So we started back in 2019 with the first batch, which was a fully on-site program. Throughout the last 5 batches, we transitioned now into a hybrid program. Hybrid program means that we have one part of the accelerator taking place in person in Switzerland, or potentially also in other locations that we have. And the majority is still, though, online and remote, as we believe still in a decentralized remote first world. So our track record, we accelerated so far 39 projects. We cover 5 continents. Again, this comes again to this interplay with our labs locations. As mentioned before, we are blockchain industry agnostic. For a 10 weeks program, we have a standardized deal, which Bastian will tell you afterwards a bit more. But just to give you a bit of a heads up, we invest 135K for 7% equity or tokens. So when it comes to the program itself, we structured this 10-week program in a very comprehensive way. So as mentioned at the beginning, we have this bootcamp taking place in Zug. So there we bring the projects to Switzerland, as we believe still in this very strengthening and very profound in-person connection, which then for further progress, specifically also the connection between us and the project is important. But also across you, the alumni, it's very important that you meet the fellow peers, which will eventually help you with introductions, with their expertise and knowledge throughout your journey. In this bootcamp, we have sort of a two-sided approach. So one part is social and team bonding activities. For instance, last bootcamp, we did an escape room. We do some dinners. We do some social events. But then again, it's also still very focused majority-wise on you and helping you forward. So we have plenty of session and workshops done by our amazing expert and mentor network, but also by CVVC, where we will teach you the fundamentals of your pitch deck, of fundraising. We'll work hands-on on your business plan. And we'll also have in the bootcamp opportunities to record already marketing promotion materials in our studio for you. So after the bootcamp, then we transition into larger blocks, which are the remote blocks, where we focus in the first block on technical topics, legal topics. And we do that in the form of pre-recorded materials, but also we do webinars just like this one, where most of the times it will not be us, the speakers. We will have somebody from our expert network. So as you will learn later, with our latest partnership with Hacken, we have in total a portfolio of around 50 to 60 experts that run workshops for you guys. So there we really have industry leaders from, again, cybersecurity firms, exchanges, market makers, marketeers. So everything that you need to run your business well around it. So here I just listed some of the curriculum for you so you get a bit of an insight. Throughout these different blocks, we always have a midterm review, health checks to understand how we can support you, where currently, let's say, the biggest need of support is. And then we progress after that stage to the second block, which is similar structured. We have this course catalog of pre-recorded videos on our platform, but then again, we have weekly webinars. Here we focus very strong on go-to-market, on your marketing, PR, branding, UI, UX, because as you probably know, when you are active in the Web3 space, that is some of the topics that are often a bit neglected. For that reason, we put a heavy emphasis. You can see it's equally weighted as the tech part, with the difference, of course, that this is also a bit of a mix and match for the founding teams, depending on the structure of their co-founding team. Last but not least, then, what we'd like to say, the highlight of the accelerator is the graduation week, where specifically Bastian and the VC team will work with you on your pitch, on your fundraise, and on your valuation, and help you to be ready for the demo day, which then again is a virtual event, 100 plus qualified investors, where you can pitch and also get very, let's say, intense work around with our VC team, who will give you handpicked introductions beforehand and hopefully then help you to secure your next round. So that sums it up. And I mentioned many times that we work a lot with different partners. And this, of course, is a quick snapshot, not of all of them, but just of some of the people who are involved. So some less, some more. For instance, Protocol Labs is one of our closer partners. Again, Hacken, Google Cloud, we're working. So you can see it's quite diverse, from layer ones to, again, service providers and so forth, infrastructure providers. On that note, I want to tell you or give you the call to action. If you're interested, but you're not 100% convinced, still go for it. Scan the QR code, submit your application. Signing up always, even if you're not 100% sure if it's the right thing for you, will always give you learnings in terms of feedback, in terms of potential, calls with our VC team to understand where you're at. And in the end of the day, I think we will hopefully learn through this webinar session that applying and participating in Accelerator will give you a lot of benefits. So on that note, I would like to hand over to Bastian, who will give you a bit of insights on the application process. And over to you, Bastian.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Also, warm welcome from my side. As Yanni has mentioned, I'm from CBVC, so basically the investment side, obviously the same company. So Yannis and I work together closely in order to come up with such an amazing acceleration program. Now, for the application process, the way it works is basically, yes, a super easy application process. So you'll find all the relevant links on our website. And so then you can go via F6S, apply there, fill out all the questions. It's actually quite straightforward. And then, so the process, how it works afterwards is basically that we would ask then for a video about your team and also about your project. And then afterwards, you're gonna have calls with the investment team to then actually do a deep dive once we have received all the relevant information, but also the videos. Then we can really have a conversation and get a really good understanding of your business. And then after that, so the last step basically is that you would present in front of an investment committee that then decides whether or not you're being accepted to our next batch. So Yanis has also mentioned that I'm going to mention a bit more around the terms. So the way it works is basically that we invest 135K in US dollars via a convertible note in return for 7% equity. So this is a very standard deal term that we have the same in place for all our companies going through the acceleration batch 6. I think that's it more or less. So as I said, it's pretty straightforward. As always, we're going to have a Q&A session at the very end of this AMA. So let me know if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. And if not, you can also reach out via LinkedIn or Twitter and post your questions if you have any. By that, I would actually like to hand back to Yanis, and then we're going to introduce Hacken and our new partner for the next batch, which we are all super excited for.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Basti. So we all know cybersecurity is the bread and butter in our space. We see, on a weekly, monthly basis exploits and so forth. So for that reason, for us, this is something we take truly close to heart, and we want to have, the strongest partner in this field by our side. And that's why we partnered up now with Hacken, who are a leading cybersecurity provider and auditor in the space since the space exists pretty much. And I'm very honored to have today, or we are very honored to have today, Yev with us, who is a co-founder and the Chief Business Development Officer at Hacken. And over to you, Yev, and tell us a bit more what you do at Hacken and how projects can benefit working with Hacken.
Hey, sure. Thank you for inviting us, and it's a great pleasure finally work with you through all the years we've been in touch. So definitely security is one of the important topics. We recently made a research for Q3. It was 117 hacks with the overall impact was $720 million, which is still high. And unfortunately, these numbers are not going lower. And the graphic is just going up in terms of loss from different crypto scams, security vulnerabilities in smart contracts, protocols, and all the other layers of the blockchain ecosystem. So what we do since 2017 is help projects to protect their products they are building from the very beginning, because we believe in security first mindset, which means that you should think about security from the day zero, because it would be much harder and more expensive to fix security once you developed everything, rather than implement the security into every step of your development process. So while we work with accelerators and help projects in the early stage, because it's important to think about that in advance and making the architecture of the product taking care about security. How you process data, where you store this data, how you deal with finance, infrastructure, and stuff like that. So we will help projects via workshops, mentorship hours, to understand what they should do in their project to implement security from the day zero. And as for Hacken in general, we've been working with the thousands of projects, not only DeFi, but also enterprises which work with blockchain to help them to do smart contract audits, penetration testing with web mobile and infrastructure, as well as doing bug bounties, where we involve our community of ethical hackers, which is around 30K around the world, and helping the projects to get the power of this community to find vulnerabilities in advance and prevent future hacks. So we're really happy to be here and help the new projects to be secure from the beginning.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that intro, Yev. So I think we'll go a bit later in the Q&A session with more into detailed questions, but I think that's a very great overview for now. So I think now it's time and shine for our project, for our portfolio firms. So I would hand the word over to you again, Basti, and tell us who is joining us today here.
Yeah, 100%. So today we got actually 3 alumni. So we got 2 from batch 5, which is basically just our last batch. We graduated last June. And then we got 1 from batch 3, which is a bit more time ago. And so actually I would like to start with Duke from Fungies. So Fungies is in the gaming industry. They built a platform for self-publishing and distribution. They were part of batch 5 of our program. Coming out of the program, they roughly raised around $1 million in pre-seed money, and now obviously they're building. So it was also very interesting to see that when they entered the program, they were still building their product, finding product market fit, and then getting out of the program. And now they're all about scaling in order to make it to the next round, scaling up the sales. And it was also super interesting to see that throughout the program, how Duke also improves his pitching skills. Now I'm always using his example for the 5-minute pitch. That's fantastic. But that being said, I'd rather hand over to Duke, and Duke is going to give you a quick overview of what Fungies is all about.
Right. So hi, everyone, and thank you again for inviting me for this session. So I was super impressed with the CVVC team, especially during a bootcamp week where we met everyone in person, including our fellow startup companies in the batch. So in short, Fungies, we are building a self-publishing platform for indie game developers that is Web3 and Web2 compatible. Think of it as like the Shopify for the gaming industry. We started out in the Web3 gaming space, and now we expanded into Web2. For Web3 particularly, we have built an NFT marketplace as a service platform where if you have a Web3 game or even have your own NFT collection, you can build your own OpenSea-like NFT marketplace within a couple of minutes. That's really short.
Fantastic. Perfect. Thank you so much, Duke. And so I would like to hand over to our second company. So we have Coala Pay. Coala Pay also went through our last batch, graduated last June. So Melin is building a company in the aid sector. They make moving ad money simple, borderless, and programmable. So what is really cool about Coala Pay is obviously they also received some funding and also a lot of grants. However, they also got accepted during actually our acceleration program for the MasterCard Start Path alongside super established players such as Accelar, which is actually a really great win, because if you look at such a program, like they're all like Series A and like super established companies, and it's super exciting to have companies such as Coala Pay in such a program. They're also going all around the world, having workshops and events in Africa and Europe, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks for joining, Melin. Maybe you want to, also speak a little bit about Coala Pay.
Sure. Well, it's also just really nice to see everybody. Like Duke said, one of the best things was getting to meet everyone in person and having that time together during the boot camp. I come from the international aid sector. I don't have a background in aid or in tech at all. So it was really nice to actually build those relationships and get to know folks who were also building something, even if it was very different from what we were building. Having those relationships and meeting people in our cohort was really, really important to us. Like I said, I'm from the aid sector. I've been working in the humanitarian sector for more than a decade in places like South Sudan and Syria, places where I think blockchain really offers communities in crisis a critical lifeline. We are building an international aid funding marketplace that is designed to improve the amount and the quality of aid money that reaches communities in needs. So and that specifically means that we're working more with like UN agencies or large INGOs than with individuals. But we are starting in the next year to work with other Web3 companies and more corporate users. So really focused on how to create a better aid funding infrastructure that supports a really enormous sector. The aid sector is actually, I think this year, the official number is $200 billion in size. So it's sort of the biggest sector you kind of didn't know existed. And it's still really functioning entirely through the support of consultants. So if you try to throw consultants at process problems, I think that sort of speaks to how much inefficiency there is. And that's where we're using blockchain to try to solve that problem.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. And then last but not least, we have Mazzuma from actually batch 3. So this was the first batch that we started with our African investments for the acceleration program. So like, as you know, we have both a global fund and an African fund. So we also heavily invest in the African continent. We've done roughly like 14 investments or so far. And also for the next batch, we're looking for African founders. So like either companies built on the African continent or for the African continent. And so Mazzuma is in the payments industry. They're building a financially inclusive payment system, and actually recently introduced Mazzuma GPT, which is a smart contract code generator. And with their payment platform, so far, they have already processed over 150 million in US dollars. And so I'm super happy to have Kofi with us. And he's also give you a quick rundown on what Mazzuma is all about.
Yeah, hi guys. Nice to be connected here. Always great to get in touch with the team. Just a little bit about experience. Ours was a bit different. I think ours was around COVID, so that was purely during a time where we couldn't meet physically, so everything was done virtually. But it was still an amazing experience going through all the sessions, back to back, meeting the other startups, learning other business models was really incredible. Just a bit about Mazzuma. Our focus is on building dev tools and APIs for both developers and organizations. So we do have should I say, payment API product that's focused on remittances primarily. And there we've processed over $150 million worth of transactional volume. And then with regard to what Bastian mentioned, we just built another product, a bit between the intersection between AI and blockchain, but focus on, should I say, the developer market in the blockchain space. And it's essentially a tool, an AI tool for generating smart contracts, both on using Solidity or Bluetooth. So primarily for the EVM space, so anything EVM compatible, and for the Cardano network as well. So excited to share more about my experience and how we also have enjoyed, all the resources in the accelerator so far.
Fantastic, perfect. Cool. So I would like to go over to the Q&A session where you guys in the call also have the chance to actually ask questions. Just use the chat function. But honestly, I would like to start with Yev from Hacken. Now, with Hacken, you've also been contributing to many accelerators in the past. Now, what is your aim when working with accelerators? Like, what kind of workshops and stuff will you do with the CV Labs Accelerator for batch 6?
Yeah, sure. So, usually, how we help the projects on the early stage within the accelerators, we have the security workshop where we share the experience for the early stage projects, what they should do in terms of security on the beginning, or how they should develop the architecture, how they should address potential issues, what the security processes should be in place within the team and externally, because it's very important to understand the whole landscape of your project. It could be either users, it could be investors, it could be internal employees, it could be infrastructure, smart contracts, blockchains, and stuff like that. And for each of these assets, we help to understand what is the attack vectors and how all these risks could be addressed and minimized in the early stage, and to protect projects from the very beginning. And make sure that even if anything happens, they have proper policies and procedures in place to address this, and they are aware of these issues. Because I believe in security, one of the main problems is the awareness. We all hear about all these hacks, but the problem is with security is that you start caring about that only when something happens. And it's good to be proactive on security and think about this in advance. So working with the projects at the very beginning when they are in the early stage helps us to share our experience via workshops like mentorship hours or any other ways in order to protect them in the future. Because all that are building now is very interesting for cyber criminals, and it's good to be ready to deal with them.
Absolutely, and that's such a valuable input also that we have for our next batch, because at such an early stage, it's always difficult to find what you actually need to complete. There's so many tasks, especially in the security space, that you need to fulfill, and it's gonna hit you hard afterwards if you don't, comply with all those measures. So that's super good to have you here as
Yeah,
well.
and you know that the problem is that security is definitely not the first priority of the founder, because they need to think about users, about their value proposition, product market fit, and a lot of stuff. But still, you should be thinking about cybersecurity and background at least.
Yeah.
Because when you're a big, have a lot of users, it could be quite risky if you have like vulnerabilities that you haven't addressed.
Yeah, and as you say rightly, there's so much stuff that you need to keep in mind at such an early stage. And this is also the way we structured actually our acceleration program. So we have like a mix of pre-recorded session, we have live sessions, and then every founder has different needs. This is, for instance, for the pre-recorded sessions, it's like there is a lot of them. You don't have to complete every single pre-recorded session. You just pick and choose the ones that you actually need. And then for the live sessions, these are obviously the most relevant ones where you actually also engage with all the experts, and then you can also follow up later. So I was wondering, Malin, you were in a very different field than, for instance, Duke. So like for you, what were the courses that were like, relevant throughout the program? How could you improve stuff for your company? So I was wondering if we could get some insights from your perspective on like how you could use the courses that the acceleration program provided throughout the 10 weeks.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we've had for a long time is that the international aid sector has its own language, its own vocabulary. And like, for example, we use the word LPs when we mean local partners. So even just the language that we use can be really confusing for people when we're trying to fundraise. And it takes us a long time to get to the point where people who've maybe never understood that the aid sector is, for many people, a for-profit sector. I mean, Chemonics is one of the biggest aid companies, private sector companies. It's a $3 billion company this year. So explaining that and getting to the point where people understand why we would be doing a business in the aid sector is already a bit of a challenge. And then to get to the point where we can also use the same crypto language or blockchain language, which is also very particular and has a lot of in-group sort of signaling involved. Making that translation was really something that we knew we were going to struggle with. And so having time through the various sessions to sit with people who are experts in security or people who are thinking about things like infrastructure growth and scale was actually really helpful for us to kind of train our ears and figure out how to explain what we're doing in that more sort of blockchain native language. I think the other thing that has been really helpful for us was some of the sessions that we did around, I know everyone kind of goes on and on about this, but pitching, because again, in the aid sector, if you present yourself in a way that is perceived to be overly arrogant or confident, it can be really off-putting to people in the aid sector. And so I have spent 15 years learning to speak in a way that doesn't make people feel like I'm being presumptuous about my own expertise. And so having to reverse that and learn how to speak really confidently about what we do was really helpful, and having the opportunity to just do that over and over and over again, and sometimes with very little notice. I think one of my favorite things is that sometimes you'll turn up for a session and somebody says, oh, and by the way, you're doing a 1-minute pitch today. And I would have like a little panic because I would want the time to present, but actually getting just thrown into that over and over again was really good to feel more confident in doing it when it comes up.
100%. Yeah. I mean, look, the program is set in a way that, especially in the beginning during the bootcamp period, like I think everybody's a bit surprised that I think after a couple of days, we invited 120 people or so to our space, and then all the projects needed to present the 1-minute pitch, and everybody's like freaking out the day in advance. But this helps because over time, like you need to pitch so often, you're getting used to it, and also like over time, you're getting all the same questions from investor over and over again. Like trust me, these are like most of the time repetitive questions. So like you just gotta get used to it, and I think it's also important to understand if you really want to raise your next round, you also got to speak to hundreds of investors, and you just need to practice and practice all over again. And so Duke, for you, you're also a serial entrepreneur. You've built companies in the past. You've also gone through other acceleration programs, and so what was the benefit for you of going for such a program?
Yeah, so for me, first of all, as Melin mentioned, the pitching part was really core to our experience. I mean, all the pitching sessions in front of a large audience, meeting everyone in person, and really your mentors during the program that have shown us how to pitch properly, how to give the presentation. That is really core in terms of fundraising for the future, for the current round, for the future as well. So yeah, I mean, I must agree with Melina. Pitching was a very important part of this, the whole workshop sessions. Number two for me was really important. It was one of the session was about the relationship between founders. So I found it super interesting. I have a CTO co-founder, and it made us think a lot about how to structure our meetings, how retrospection, or let's say relationship in a way that benefits the company, benefits our mental well-being, both of us. And so it was really important a session as well. For me, I mean, meeting everyone in person and other sort of founders within and the team gave a lot of energy. Like when you pitch your company like in front of the screen, it is totally different than pitching in person. And having that kind of like energy from other founders who cheer for you. I mean, everyone was like, it was not competitive at all. Like, everyone was like cheering for each other. And that was really heartwarming. I mean, that was a superb experience. And other than that, I think in terms of crypto, legal, and the tokenomics design, it was also great as well during the program. So if you are in Web3 space, building a Web3 product, crypto product, and all the sessions will prove to be valuable, I believe.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your inputs. And look, what is also great for the program is like it's super international. So like all the time we have really like teams from all around the globe. And I think this also helps a lot. And so look, I mean, for this call, we have Fungies from Europe, we have Coala Pay from the US or like Northern America. And then we have Mazzuma from the African continent. So like we have 3 continents covered, and I'm quite assured that like Hacken is also acting on a global basis, so to speak. And so now for you, Kofi, how come you applied for a Swiss acceleration program? Like, how could that also boost your business journey when you're having a Swiss investor on your cap table, and then also if you're doing business in Ghana and also trying to attract other investors? So like, I'm eager also to learn and get some feedback on like how that turned out to have a Swiss investor.
Yes. So first of all, I'd like to start off from the CVVC experience. I think before this was our first official accelerator that we participated in. So the first thing that was so, should I say, astounding to us was the sheer density in resources. Like, these guys had access to everybody. So you pretty much need to know somebody somewhere at the other side of the world working in an organization, ABC, who could help you move your needle in this direction, and just one email away, you are put in touch with them. So that was, should I say, the first thing that really stood out from the team. We were so impressed by the sheer quality in terms of the resource network. The second thing was the granularity of the program. So it was very detailed, every single aspect, from marketing to legal to PR, every single stage of it. So it allows you to really look at your business from a 360 point of view. As a matter of fact, I think between the time we started the program and ended the program, we probably iterated our page deck about 50 times, if not more. A bit stressful, quite stressful. But I mean, at the end of the program, we were like, wow, it was a real eye-opener. And what you probably, should I say, can't take away from the program is just that quality. In terms of coming at it from the African perspective, the approach there was, a little bit different because in terms of like the Swiss culture, it's a little bit different from the African culture. They are much more gentle and should I say they are much more patient in their approach. But then we also learn to adjust with that, also understanding the kind of KPIs that were expected in terms of what you were doing. And I think another very good thing that happened was part of the team that was working with us were also Africans. So they could also understand some of the perspectives that we had. And then further on, I think, of course, CVVC went on to even establish CVVC Africa to further deepen the ethos. So it allowed us to have like a group of investors who really understood the market, really understood the players, really understood how to help guide, should I say, startups from the African continent who are trying to build products for the African market and for markets outside of the African continent. Because there's two angles, building in Africa for the world and then building in Africa for Africa. So I think these two angles were very well covered in terms of the resource pool that we had access to.
All right, perfect. And so actually there's one thing that I forgot to add before, which is obviously like apart from the 135 and K investment and the access to all our partners, et cetera, we also have a couple of perks that are included with the programs with around 200K in cloud credits, for instance, from AWS, Google Cloud, OVH. Then obviously you also get to work together with Hacken. And then we have credits from unsuppable domains. We have credits from Covalent. We have our own designer that is working also together with our portfolio companies in order to come up with brand assets. Like it can be pitch decks, but obviously it can also be a new logo. It can also be some parts for your website. And then also what we definitely have is, speaking of like global companies, we have co-working spaces all around the globe. So we have co-working spaces here in Switzerland, we have a co-working space in Berlin, we have a co-working space in Lisbon, and obviously also in Cape Town. And we're also doing a lot of events and always trying to engage companies for our events. So we just had our Friends and Family Day, basically, which is a gathering of our LPs, of VCs that we work together with. And then right after the Friends and Family Day, we had our CV Summit, which is basically our flagship event always in October, where if possible, we also try to get startups on stage. And then obviously also to make the connections. I think as Kofi also mentioned before, CV Labs and CBDC is quite well connected in the space, and wherever we try to, open up our network, if possible. And so, Yev hasn't been talking for a while, since we've been talking about, the contents of the program and so on and so forth. So I wanted to also learn more, like, these days, like what are like mostly the startups that you're supporting in the space, like both from a geographical point of view, but also in terms of industries that you're supporting. So Jeff, if you could answer the question from the point of view from Hacken.
Yeah, so like for us, it's mostly the products within the infrastructure. So it's like layer 1 solutions, layer 2 solutions, as well as the crypto exchanges, crypto wallets. So the active builders, as well as different retail solutions. As if we're talking about the geography, it's everywhere, because we are like over 100 people, and people in different time zones with different mentalities. So we work with a lot of different clients, whether it's like US, Asia, or Europe. Ourselves are based in Lisbon, and been a couple of times to a co-working place of CVC, and it's like really nice going to actually this week to your event as well. So yeah, we're just working with like a lot of different projects.
Oh, maybe quickly.
Exactly. And so as we were, yeah, sure.
Yeah, sorry. So if you are in Lisbon, we have this week an amazing event happening with our partner at Cube. As we mentioned at the beginning, the research report from CV Labs, we published today the Lisbon/Portugal report, and there will be the official presentation. So if you're interested, check out our socials, because not just in Zug, but again, across the globe, we always run a lot of events and very exciting stuff. So back to you, Basti, again.
Yeah, I mean, what I wanted to ask as well is also like, obviously, like we're having those events, et cetera, et cetera. And so what we get asked quite often is always like, hey, so I go through the acceleration program, and then like once, you know, the program is over, am I still in touch with CVVC or CV Labs, or is like the relationship like over afterwards? And so I can also assure you guys that we try to help as much as possible after the program ends. And maybe, you know, also like given you were in the same batch, Melon and Duke, maybe you can also give a bit more insights on like how you guys work together with. For instance, I saw Melon, you were doing a show with Devin from Web3 Sanctuary a couple of weeks ago. And you know, Duke, we're obviously also in contact and you know, having update calls, et cetera, et cetera. So like, what are your insights like when finishing the program? So like, does it like stop, or are you still working together with the other portfolio companies and CVVC? Would be great if you can hear your insights as well.
I can jump in. Yeah, have been joining podcasts with some of the other portfolio companies who are hosting things on, you know, people who are building real world applications in Web3, which is always cool because you have an existing relationship. So it is one of the best interviews that I've had the chance to do, because Devin knew what we were building. She knew a little bit about my background, so she could really ask insightful questions. So I was able to go a bit deeper into the conversation than I normally would on a podcast. So that's great for us in terms of visibility. We obviously are very excited to hire the developers that they produce out of their company. So you really do have a built-in sort of network of people. We talk to the Collecti guys a lot because we're looking at, you know, potential ways that we can collaborate there. And of course, I have lots of plans to bother Duke about finding a way to give some of the folks building with him a way to do easy social impact. So it is a great way to meet people that you maybe wouldn't otherwise, and to stay in touch. And to Duke's point earlier, it is an incredibly friendly community of people. I've been really amazed by, and I think, and my other colleagues too, who have joined the Friends and Family Day and other events, have said, like, this is such a breath of fresh air to be around people who are obviously really knowledgeable, but who are really enthusiastic about bringing people in who might be coming from different places. And I would say that that's something I also feel very strongly about the CV Labs teams in general, is that the amount of support, the just time spent with us, introducing us to people, helping us work out how to approach something, and just being a thought partner in navigating the weirdness that is startup land has been hugely beneficial. And I don't think we would have been able to grow the way we have without having had that support in such a very material way. So we've had a great experience.
One thing I didn't mention was, I think, the combination of the whole program, which is Demo Day. We luckily had one investor who invested in us thanks to the CVVC Demo Day. So great events. And I'm always thankful of CVVC for inviting us for different sessions, conferences, where I could be also a speaker on those events or pitching events. So the relationship doesn't end with the end of the program. It continues, and there are a lot of events that CV Labs CVVC do. And so there's a lot of ways that you can interact with the network and community. And yeah, I was also part of other podcasts from other founders from the same batch, so had the same experience. And I believe that it is also major importance that once you get into the program, you also have a chance for future follow-on rounds from CVVC itself. So it provides a great way for you to graduate, let's say, from the pre-seed angel, let's say, level to seed, and then to Series A, hopefully. So yeah, those are my takeaways from what comes after the program's end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Duke. And it's true what they say. Your existing investors are your best marketers and your best friends when it comes to follow-on rounds, right? So I think now we heard a bit about, from the projects about their experiences. We heard from Yev a bit about how Hacken can support projects. But now I think the burning question, Basti, so how do people actually apply for Accelerator, and more even, is there some tips we can give them, to make their application a bit easier? Because I know when you open that F6S page for the first time, it can be a bit overwhelming because there's a lot of questions. So yeah, maybe let's talk a bit about that before we wrap it up.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, for an application, keep it simple. It's the same advice as I would give if you're going out on a pitch day and you need to pitch for 5 minutes. Like really, like try to keep it as simple as possible. I mean, there's plenty of questions, and always try to give short answers, but be very concise. And then also, like for instance, if you're being asked, like, how you stand out from your competition, or like, please give a bit more in a background on your team. Like try to give active examples, and not like just write down, hey, we have the best team, because how do I know that you're actually having the best team? So try to give a bit of examples. But as always, for early stage teams, we're always looking for great and innovative ideas, but obviously also for a super good founding team, which is very important, because as all of you know, there's plenty of pivots throughout your journey. And so we're always looking for great founders who can also manage such pivots. And so even though, your product is not fully built, or your MVP is not fully built, as long as you're having a vision and a great team, we like to support those companies and those founders. So when applying, make sure that you're also giving the right insights on your team, and try to keep the pitch deck as simple as possible, because afterwards, as I said, we're asking for videos and more insights on your team anyhow, and you're gonna have calls. So there's always time and room for more insights to go deeper. So yeah, try to keep it simple, and we're super open. I think also, as we've mentioned, we're blockchain agnostic. We're mostly geography agnostic, and also industry agnostic, as long as it relates to blockchain technology. So what we're trying to look for is for founders either using blockchain technology, or your service provider to the industry. So these are our main criteria. What we also want to see most of the times is to have an MVP, at least the first iteration of your MVP, because what we also see is that like throughout the program, you got to talk to a lot of experts, and then also iterate your MVP, talk to clients, etc., because then obviously the goal is coming to demo day, having something ready, and then also maybe even first traction to then raise your pre-seed round, because especially in these times, it's quite difficult to raise a full pre-seed round or a seed round with any significant traction. Unfortunately, all the investors, they even want to see first revenues. So this is why we have the acceleration program to help you before you're actually having revenues, to support you on your journey. But obviously, this is also why we want to see an MVP, so we can help you throughout that journey and get you to the next level, so to speak.
Super. Thank you so much, Bastian. So to wrap it up, I want to thank once more Yev to taking the time and giving us these insightful insights, and also to all of our projects to take the time and share their experiences. So last call to action, if you're interested, go to cvlabs.com/acceleration or /accelerator, sorry. Read through it. If you have any question, there's a contact form. Bastian and myself will be very happy to answer your questions. And yeah, on that note, then I wish everybody a beautiful morning, for you, Melon, and everybody in the States, and for us in Europe, a beautiful evening. And yeah, looking forward then to being in touch with as many possible of you. And yeah, see you.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and looking forward to replication. Bye-bye.
Guys.
Thank you. Bye.